For as long as human beings have built settlements, they have also told stories about their destruction. Every civilization carries memories of places that once thrived, but later disappeared beneath waves, sand, jungle, or volcanic ash. These are not only tales of tragedy, but also of mystery and resilience. A lost city is never just a pile of ruins, it is a puzzle. Who lived there? Why did it vanish? And what secrets might still be hidden beneath the earth or ocean floor? Documentary filmmakers and explorers often return to these questions because lost cities connect us with two powerful human emotions: curiosity and longing. Curiosity drives us to seek the truth about the past, while longing reminds us that history is fragile and fleeting. Each vanished city is a reminder that nothing, no matter how mighty, is eternal. In this journey, we will explore the legends and facts behind some of the world's most famous lost cities. Some of them, like Pompeii, have been rediscovered in stunning detail. Others, like El Dorado or Atlantis, remain half hidden in myth and speculation. Together they form a grand adventure through history, archaeology, and imagination. No discussion of lost cities can begin without mentioning Atlantis. For over 2,000 years, this legendary island has captured the imagination of philosophers, explorers, scientists, and storytellers. The story first appears in the works of the Greek philosopher Plato around 360 BCE. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, he describes a vast and powerful civilization that existed 9,000 years before his own time. Atlantis, according to Plato, was a great island located beyond the Pillars of Heracles, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. The Atlanteans were technologically advanced, wealthy, and militarily powerful. They built magnificent palaces, harbors, and temples. Their empire stretched across parts of Europe and Africa. But as Plato tells it, pride and corruption weakened them. The gods, angered by Atlantis' arrogance, sent earthquakes and floods that swallowed the island in a single day and night of misfortune. The mighty civilization vanished beneath the sea, leaving only legend. Scholars have debated for centuries. Was Atlantis a metaphor, a myth, or a memory of a real place? Metaphor. Some argue Plato invented Atlantis as a cautionary tale about hubris and moral decay. Just as his republic described an ideal state, Atlantis symbolized a corrupted one. Memory. Others suggest Plato was preserving fragments of distant memories, perhaps of the eruption of Thera, modern-day Santorini, around 1600 BCE, when a volcanic explosion destroyed much of the Minoan civilization. This disaster would have sent shockwaves across the Mediterranean. Myth. For many enthusiasts, Atlantis was a real place waiting to be rediscovered. Over the centuries, people have proposed locations ranging from the Caribbean and the Sahara Desert to Antarctica. The idea of Atlantis has influenced everything from medieval maps to modern science fiction. Writers like Francis Bacon and Jules Verne reimagined it as a utopia or a futuristic city. Conspiracy theories claim it held lost technologies, crystal energy, or even alien contact. Whether or not these claims have evidence, they show how powerful the legend remains. Since the Renaissance, explorers have launched countless expeditions to find Atlantis. Some notable theories include Santorini, Thera. Archaeologists point to the Minoan civilization destroyed by volcanic eruption. Advanced architecture, trade networks, and sudden collapse fit Plato's story. Azores and Canary Islands. These Atlantic islands were thought to be the mountain peaks of a drowned continent, Caribbean and Americas. Some claimed the Bahamas. Cuba, or even Central America, were remnants of Atlantis. Sahara Desert. Recent theories suggest that the Eye of the Sahara, Richat structure in Mauritania, matches Plato's description of concentric rings, despite sonar scans, underwater archaeology, and satellite mapping. No definitive evidence of Atlantis has been found. Yet the search continues, because the idea of a lost super-civilization beneath the sea is too compelling to abandon. Atlantis is not just a legend, it is a mirror. Each generation sees in it what they fear or desire. For Renaissance thinkers, it symbolized hidden wisdom. For Victorian explorers, it promised proof of biblical floods. For modern audiences, it reflects concerns about climate change and rising seas. Perhaps Atlantis survives not because it once existed, but because it tells us something eternal about human nature. Civilizations rise, but they can also fall. A city that thought itself invincible was swallowed by the ocean, just as modern coastal cities face rising tides. In that sense, Atlantis is always with us, reminding us of the thin line between triumph and catastrophe. For centuries after the discovery of the Americas, whispers of unimaginable wealth traveled across the oceans to Europe. Among these tales, none was more captivating than that of El Dorado, the Golden City, the place where streets were paved with treasure, where kings were said to cover themselves in dusted gold before bathing in sacred lakes. It was not merely a city, some said, but an entire kingdom of dazzling riches hidden deep within the uncharted jungles of South America. The myth of El Dorado began with indigenous rituals in the Andean highlands. When Spanish explorers first encountered the Muisca people of present-day Colombia, they learned of a ceremony in which a new ruler would cover himself with gold dust and then wash it off in Lake Guatavita as an offering to the gods. Witnesses described boats laden with jewels, emeralds, and gold artifacts cast into the water as sacrifices. From this kernel of truth, European imagination spun a legend far grander than reality. Soon, El Dorado was no longer a ceremony but a city, then a kingdom, and eventually an empire of wealth waiting to be found. The promise of boundless riches ignited the ambitions of countless conquistadors. In 1541, Gonzalo Pizarro, half-brother of Francisco Pizarro, set out on one of the earliest and most infamous expeditions in search of El Dorado. He led hundreds of soldiers, along with thousands of indigenous porters and slaves, into the Amazon basin. What followed was a nightmare of disease, starvation, and betrayal. The expedition lost nearly all of its members. Yet even as survivors staggered back to civilization, stories spread that they had glimpsed signs of the Golden Land deeper in the jungle. In the following decades, explorers like Francisco de Orellana, Sir Walter Raleigh, and countless others launched journeys into the interior of South America. Orellana became the first European to navigate the entire length of the Amazon River in 1542, a feat achieved only because he was forced to drift downstream in desperation after failing to find El Dorado. Raleigh, in 1595, wrote vivid accounts claiming he had found the edges of a rich kingdom near the Orinoco River. He never produced proof, but his words inspired centuries of adventurers who followed in his footsteps. El Dorado was more than a legend. It became a fever, an obsession. Men sold their estates, risked their lives, and condemned their followers to suffering, all in the hope of striking gold. The dream of this lost city shaped maps, drove imperial rivalries, and fueled the expansion of empires into regions that Europeans barely understood. But there was always a cost. For indigenous peoples, the relentless hunt for El Dorado brought violence, enslavement, and cultural destruction. Entire communities were uprooted or wiped out as Spanish and later European forces pressed deeper into their territories. The myth of a golden city did not enrich them. It brought devastation. As centuries passed, belief in a single glittering city waned, but the legend refused to die. Archaeologists and anthropologists began to uncover the truth hidden behind the exaggerations. The Muisca really had performed rituals at Lake Guatavita, and divers have recovered offerings from its muddy depths, gold figurines, jewelry, and intricate artifacts. But the quantities were symbolic, not the unimaginable mountains of treasure envisioned by conquistadors. Some modern researchers suggest that the stories of El Dorado may have reflected not one city, but many prosperous indigenous cultures spread across the Andes and Amazon. Complex societies like the Muisca, Chibcha, and others developed sophisticated economies and traded in emeralds, gold, and fine crafts. To European eyes, these wealthy and organized peoples seemed to confirm the rumors of hidden riches. Yet what the conquistadors mistook for a single golden capital was in fact a mosaic of cultures thriving across the continent. Even today, the myth retains its grip on the imagination. The 20th century, expeditions continued to probe the jungles of Colombia, Venezuela, and Brazil, often with more enthusiasm than evidence. Popular culture, novels, films, and even adventure games has kept El Dorado alive as a symbol of unattainable treasure and the dangers of unchecked ambition. What makes El Dorado enduring is not just the lure of wealth, but the deeper human desire it represents. It is the dream of paradise, the hope that somewhere in the unknown lies a place of abundance and wonder that can change a person's destiny. In reality, those who search for it often found only suffering, yet the idea of a golden city hidden from the world remains irresistible. The story of El Dorado teaches us two things. First, myths can have power equal to or greater than truth. They shape behavior, launch expeditions, and alter history. Second, the greatest treasures are rarely piles of gold. For the Muisca, the gold they offered to the lake was not wealth to be hoarded, but a sacred gift, a bond between people and gods. Perhaps that is the real El Dorado, a reminder that value lies not in possession, but in meaning. In the shadow of Mount Vesuvius, on the Bay of Naples, lay a vibrant Roman city that bustled with life for centuries. Pompeii was not legendary like Atlantis or mythical like El Dorado. It was real, tangible, a thriving urban center with streets, markets, theaters, and temples. And yet, like those fabled cities, Pompeii vanished, suddenly and dramatically, leaving behind a haunting snapshot of a civilization frozen in time. At its height, Pompeii was home to perhaps 20,000 people. Archaeological evidence reveals a city rich with culture and commerce. Streets were paved with stone and marked by stepping stones, so pedestrians could cross during rains. Homes ranged from modest apartments to lavish villas decorated with frescoes and mosaics. There were bakeries, taverns, brothels, and bathhouses. Amphitheaters hosted gladiatorial games, while forums echoed with political debate and trade. What makes Pompeii extraordinary is not just the scale of its life, but the intimacy of its preservation. Unlike ruins eroded by centuries of weather and conquest, Pompeii was sealed away in an instant. The catastrophe that destroyed it also protected it, creating one of the most detailed archaeological records of the ancient world. The disaster struck on August 24th, 79 CE, when Mount Vesuvius erupted with terrifying force. For days, tremors and strange signs had unsettled the area, but life carried on. Then, without warning, the volcano sent a column of ash, pumice, and gas soaring into the sky. As the clouds spread, darkness fell over the city. Ash rained down, collapsing roofs and filling streets. Many fled, but thousands remained, whether trapped, unwilling or unaware of the full danger. Pliny the Younger, a Roman writer who witnessed the eruption from across the bay, described the terrifying scene in letters that later became crucial historical documents. He wrote of darkness like a room when the lamps are out, of lightning flashing through clouds of ash, of the sea retreating and surging in strange rhythms. He recounted how his uncle, Pliny the Elder, died attempting a rescue by sea. As the hours passed, pyroclastic flows, avalanches of superheated gas and rock, rushed down the slopes of Vesuvius, incinerating everything in their path. Temperatures reached hundreds of degrees Celsius. In moments, entire neighborhoods were annihilated. Those who had not escaped were killed instantly. By the end of the eruption, Pompeii, along with nearby Herculaneum and smaller towns, was buried beneath several meters of volcanic material. For centuries, Pompeii lay hidden. Occasional diggings uncovered fragments, but it was not until the 18th century that systematic excavation began. What emerged astonished the world. Streets intact, houses filled with furniture, frescoes still vivid with color. Graffiti scrawled on walls revealed the voices of ordinary citizens. Political slogans, jokes, declarations of love. Even food had been preserved. Loaves of bread carbonized in ovens, amphorae still holding wine or oil. Perhaps most haunting of all were the casts of victims. In the 19th century, archaeologists developed a technique of pouring plaster into voids left in the ash, where bodies had decomposed. The result was life-sized figures frozen in their final moments. Families huddled together, a man shielding his face, a dog still chained in vain struggle. These casts transformed Pompeii from ruins into human tragedy, making the ancient city feel heartbreakingly close. The rediscovery of Pompeii had a profound cultural impact. In Europe, it fueled a wave of fascination with classical antiquity. Artists, writers, and architects drew inspiration from the city's art and design. For historians, Pompeii offered an unprecedented look into Roman daily life. Not the lives of emperors and generals, but of bakers, merchants, slaves, and children. It was a window into the ordinary, preserved with extraordinary detail. Yet Pompeii is also a cautionary tale. The eruption of Vesuvius reminds us of nature's immense power and unpredictability. The same volcanic soil that made the region fertile also concealed unimaginable danger. Modern scientists study Pompeii not only for its history, but also to understand volcanic hazards that still threaten millions living around active volcanoes today. Despite centuries of excavation, Pompeii continues to reveal surprises, new discoveries. Whether a beautifully painted fresco, a previously hidden street, or fresh graffiti, emerge almost every year. Advances in technology, from ground-penetrating radar to DNA analysis, allow researchers to reconstruct the lives of Pompeii's residents in even greater detail. We learn what they ate, how they dressed, what diseases they carried, even the names of their dogs. Pompeii endures in the human imagination because it feels both distant and immediate. Distant because it is a Roman city buried nearly 2,000 years ago. Immediate because its preservation makes its people feel so alive. People caught in mid-step, meals half-eaten, conversations abruptly silenced. It is as if time itself stopped, preserving a moment of human history like a photograph. For travelers and storytellers, Pompeii remains a paradox. It is a place of death, yet also a place of rebirth, where the past speaks more vividly than in almost any other ruin. Walking its streets today, one can hear echoes of laughter and argument, smell the faint memory of bread in ovens, feel the weight of both life and loss. Pompeii reminds us that civilizations, no matter how vibrant, are fragile. But it also reminds us that through tragedy, memory can endure, teaching us across centuries what it meant to live and die in the shadow of a volcano, deep in the desert canyons of southern Jordan, hidden among rose-red cliffs, lies one of the most breathtaking archaeological sites in the world, Petra. Known today as the Rose City for the color of its stone, Petra was once the dazzling capital of the Nabatean kingdom. Unlike Atlantis or El Dorado, Petra was not a legend. It was a real metropolis, an economic hub and a marvel of engineering. Yet like so many great cities, it too fell into obscurity, swallowed by time and sand, only to be rediscovered centuries later. The Nabateans, a nomadic Arab people, began to settle in the region around the 4th century BCE. Over time, they transformed Petra into a thriving city strategically located along vital trade routes that linked Arabia, Egypt, and the Mediterranean. Caravans laden with frankincense, myrrh, spices, and silk passed through Petra, making the city immensely wealthy. Its prosperity was not built on conquest, but on commerce, diplomacy, and a remarkable ability to adapt to the harsh desert environment. What made Petra extraordinary was its architecture and water management. Instead of building with imported materials, the Nabateans carved directly into the sandstone cliffs. The most iconic structure, the treasury, or al-Khazne, is a monumental facade rising nearly 40 meters high, intricately decorated with columns, statues, and reliefs. But this was only one of hundreds of rock-cut tombs, temples, and houses that gave the city its unique character. Equally impressive was Petra's hydraulic system. In a desert where rainfall is scarce, the Nabateans mastered the art of channeling and storing water. They built dams, cisterns, and aqueducts that collected seasonal floods and distributed water throughout the city. This engineering feat not only sustained its population, but also allowed gardens and agriculture to flourish in an otherwise arid landscape. By the 1st century CE, Petra had reached its zenith. It was home to tens of thousands of people and had become a symbol of Nabatean power. Yet its wealth did not go unnoticed. In 106 CE, the Roman Empire annexed Petra, absorbing it into the province of Arabia Petraea. The city continued to thrive under Roman influence, with new buildings such as a grand amphitheater and Roman-style streets. But change was coming. Trade routes shifted as maritime commerce expanded, reducing Petra's importance as a caravan hub. Earthquakes in the 4th and 6th centuries dealt heavy blows to its infrastructure. Gradually, the city declined. By the Middle Ages, Petra was largely abandoned. Its once busy streets silent and its monuments forgotten by the outside world. For centuries, Petra remained hidden, known only to local Bedouin tribes who guarded its secrets. To Europeans, it became a city of rumor, whispered of in tales of treasure hidden in the desert. It wasn't until 1812 that Swiss explorer Johann Ludwig Burckhardt, disguised as an Arab traveler, rediscovered Petra for the Western world. His descriptions of magnificent rock-cut facades astonished Europe and ignited a wave of fascination with this lost city. Since then, Petra has captured the imagination of travelers, scholars, and filmmakers alike. Its appearance in films and documentaries, most famously in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, has cemented its status as a global icon. But beyond the cinematic allure, Petra is a crucial archaeological site, offering insight into the Nabatean civilization and their mastery of blending art, engineering, and environment. Modern excavations have revealed that Petra was far more complex than just a city of tombs. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of markets, workshops, and temples that indicate a bustling urban life. Advanced imaging technology has shown hidden structures beneath the sands, suggesting that much of Petra's story is still waiting to be uncovered. Today, Petra is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the new 7 Wonders of the World. Visitors walking through the Seek, a narrow gorge that opens suddenly to the treasury, experience the same awe Burckhardt must have felt. Yet Petra is fragile. Tourism, weathering, and environmental pressures threaten its delicate sandstone monuments. Preservation is a constant challenge. Petra endures not just because of its beauty, but because of its story. It is a tale of a people who turned desert into oasis, who carved their legacy into stone, and who thrived through ingenuity and trade. It is also a reminder of the fragility of human achievement. A city once at the center of the world fell into silence, reminding us that even the most magnificent civilizations can fade. And yet, when rediscovered, Petra showed us that history can return, shimmering with new meaning, even after centuries of absence. High in the misty peaks of the Andes, perched on a mountain ridge nearly 8,000 feet above sea level, lies one of the world's most famous lost cities, Machu Picchu. For centuries, this Incan citadel remained hidden from outsiders, its terraces and temples cloaked by jungle and clouds. Unlike Pompeii, it was not destroyed in an instant, nor like Atlantis was it swallowed by myth. Instead, Machu Picchu slipped silently from memory, preserved by isolation until its rediscovery in the early 20th century. Built in the 15th century, Machu Picchu is believed to have been commissioned by the Inca Emperor Pachacuti as a royal estate or ceremonial center. The Incas were master builders, and Machu Picchu displays their genius in every stone. The city consists of terraces carved into the mountainside for agriculture, temples aligned with the sun, and houses constructed with the Incas' remarkable stone-cutting technique. Massive granite blocks were fitted together without mortar so precisely that not even a knife blade can fit between them. Its location was as much symbolic as strategic. Surrounded by towering peaks and steep cliffs, Machu Picchu seems suspended between earth and sky, a sacred place where the Incas could connect with their gods. Some scholars argue it was an astronomical observatory, aligned with solstices and equinoxes. Others see it as a retreat for Incan elites. Whatever its original purpose, it was abandoned during the Spanish conquest, though the Spaniards never actually found it. The jungle reclaimed the city, guarding it in silence. In 1911, American explorer Hiram Bingham brought Machu Picchu to global attention. Guided by local farmers, he was stunned to discover the overgrown ruins of temples, plazas, and terraces. Though the site had never been entirely unknown to locals, its revelation to the wider world sparked fascination. Machu Picchu soon became a symbol of Inca achievement and a wonder of the pre-Columbian Americas. Today, Machu Picchu is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the new 7 Wonders of the World. Visitors walk among its terraces, marvel at the Temple of the Sun, and gaze across the breathtaking valley of the Urubamba River. Yet the city also faces the challenges of preservation. Tourism, earthquakes, and erosion threaten its fragile structures, making conservation vital. If Machu Picchu represents a city lost to time and isolation, Angkor Wat in Cambodia represents a city lost to change and collapse. Where Machu Picchu sits on a remote mountain, Angkor sprawls across the Cambodian plains, the remnants of a metropolis that once ruled an empire. At its height between the 9th and 15th centuries, the Khmer Empire built Angkor as both capital and temple complex. It was the largest religious monument in the world, a dazzling testament to human ambition. Angkor Wat, the central temple, was originally dedicated to the Hindu god Vishnu before later becoming a Buddhist shrine. Its scale is staggering, vast galleries, towers rising like lotus buds, bas-reliefs stretching for hundreds of meters depicting epic battles and mythologies. Surrounding it, the greater Angkor complex contained hundreds of temples, reservoirs, and palaces, covering an area larger than modern-day Paris. But Angkor was more than stone. Its lifeblood was water. The Khmer engineered massive reservoirs and canals that transformed the landscape into a fertile breadbasket, capable of sustaining a huge population. This mastery of hydraulic engineering was key to the empire's power, yet it was also vulnerable. Scholars believe shifts in climate, periods of drought followed by floods, disrupted this delicate balance. Combined with invasions and political instability, Angkor declined. By the 15th century, much of the city had been abandoned, leaving behind only its temples. For centuries, Angkor's ruins lay covered in jungle. When Western explorers like Henri Mouhot described them in the 19th century, readers in Europe were astonished. The grandeur of Angkor seemed almost impossible, as if it were a fantasy rather than history. Yet archaeology has since revealed that the Khmer Empire was one of the most sophisticated civilizations of its time, capable of supporting perhaps 1 million people in its capital. Like Petra and Machu Picchu, Angkor captures the imagination because of its dual nature, both a triumph and a mystery. Its temples stand as masterpieces of art and devotion, while its decline remains a lesson in fragility. Today, Angkor is one of Southeast Asia's most visited sites, drawing millions each year. But mass tourism, looting, and environmental threats put immense strain on its monuments. Preservation efforts race against time to protect it for future generations. Together, Machu Picchu and Angkor remind us of humanity's ability to create wonders in vastly different landscapes, the soaring Andes and the Cambodian plains. They also remind us that even the most magnificent achievements can vanish, whether swallowed by jungle or undone by climate. To walk their ruins is to step into the shadows of greatness and loss, to hear whispers of civilizations that dreamed big, built grand, and then faded, leaving beauty behind. For as long as humans have told stories, they have spoken of cities both real and legendary. Some, like Troy, were thought to be pure myth until archaeology proved otherwise. Others, like Ubar, flickered between rumor and reality until rediscovered. Still others, like Chichen Itza, never vanished completely, but carried the weight of mystery, their ruins speaking of forgotten rituals and empires. Each of these cities deepens our understanding of how myths and ruins intertwine. Take Troy, immortalized in Homer's Iliad. For centuries, scholars debated whether the Trojan War was fact or fable. Many dismissed Troy as a poetic invention, a stage for epic heroes like Achilles and Hector, rather than a real place. Yet in the 19th century, German archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann excavated at Hisarlik in modern Turkey. There, layer upon layer of ancient settlements revealed that a great city had indeed existed. While the precise details of the Trojan War remain debated, was it a single conflict or a series of battles? The ruins showed that Troy was no fantasy. The line between legend and history blurred. What once was sung by bards became solid stone, proof that myth can preserve a memory of truth. Far to the south, in the deserts of Oman, lay another fabled place, Ubar, often called the Atlantis of the sands. Mentioned in ancient texts, Ubar was described as a city of wealth and splendor, flourishing on the frankincense trade routes. For centuries, explorers searched for it, chasing rumors across the Arabian Peninsula. In the 1990s, Satellite imagery and archaeological surveys revealed ruins at a site called Shisir. There, researchers uncovered a collapsed limestone cavern beneath ancient fortifications, suggesting a once thriving settlement had literally fallen into the earth. Whether this was truly the legendary Ubar remains debated, but the discovery gave new life to stories long dismissed as fantasy. Like Atlantis, Ubar demonstrates how myth and geography can fuse into enduring mysteries. Then there is Chichen Itza, in the jungles of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. Unlike Troy or Ubar, it was never lost to memory. Maya descendants always knew of it, but for centuries its meaning was obscured to outsiders. At its peak between the 9th and 12th centuries, Chichen Itza was one of the great cities of the Maya civilization. Its architecture blends science, religion, and art in striking ways. The Temple of Kukulkan, a massive pyramid, is aligned with the equinox. Twice a year, the setting sun casts shadows that resemble a serpent slithering down its staircase. Ball courts, temples, and observatories reveal a people deeply attuned to astronomy, mathematics, and ritual. Yet Chichen Itza, like so many great cities, declined. Drought, warfare, and shifting trade likely contributed to its fall. By the time Europeans arrived, much of the city was already in ruins. Still, its monuments stood as silent witnesses to a lost world, their meaning waiting to be rediscovered by scholars. Today, Chichen Itza is both a heritage site and a place of living memory, where Maya traditions continue alongside global tourism. What unites Troy, Ubar, and Chichen Itza is the way they bridge myth and reality. Troy reminds us that stories dismissed as legend may contain kernels of truth. Ubar shows how imagination can be sparked by traces of forgotten trade routes and collapsed ruins. Chichen Itza demonstrates how a culture's genius can endure even when its empire fades. Each city is both real and symbolic, carrying lessons about resilience, memory, and the fragility of civilization. And so our journey through vanished cities comes full circle. From Atlantis beneath the waves to El Dorado in the jungle. From Pompeii buried in ash to Petra carved in stone. From Machu Picchu in the clouds to Angkor sprawling across plains. And finally to Troy, Ubar, and Chichen Itza. We see a common thread. Civilizations rise with brilliance and ambition, shaping landscapes with temples, palaces, and markets. But they are vulnerable to nature, to war, to time itself. The allure of lost cities lies not only in their ruins but in what they say about us. We are drawn to them because they embody both our dreams and our fears. The dream that greatness can endure, and the fear that it can vanish overnight. They remind us that nothing is permanent. Not wealth, not power, not even entire empires. Yet they also remind us that memory endures. Even when cities fall silent, their stones speak. Their myths travel across centuries, inspiring new generations to explore, to imagine, to remember. Perhaps that is the true treasure of lost cities. Not gold or jewels, but the wisdom they leave behind. That human achievement is fragile, yet meaningful, fleeting yet eternal in memory. To walk among their ruins is to hear the echo of voices long gone, calling us to reflect on our own place in history. One day, perhaps, our own cities will be ruins too, and future generations will wonder about us. Until then, the stories of vanished cities remain both cautionary tales and sources of wonder, a timeless reminder that in the ruins of the past, we glimpse both the fragility and the greatness of humanity. And so, the stories of Atlantis, El Dorado, Pompeii, Petra, Machu Picchu, Angkor, Troy, Ubar, and Chichen Itza remind us of a simple truth. Civilizations rise and civilizations fall. Some vanish in a single night, others fade slowly over centuries, but none are truly gone as long as we remember them. The ruins are not just stone and dust, they are mirrors, reflecting both our greatest achievements and our deepest fragility. One day our cities too may be ruins, and perhaps others will walk among them wondering who we were. Until then, the lost cities of the past remain alive, whispering across time, calling us to dream, to explore, and to never forget. And if these lost cities have inspired you, imagine how many more stories the world still holds. Subscribe to this channel for more journeys into history, myth, and mystery. And join us as we uncover the forgotten echoes of the past.